everybody out there that hate the left, right? You got to be careful that you don't hate something so much that you start to become that shit. These kids that are running around here with these fucked up mentalities and attitudes were taught and programmed to be like that. They had leaders in their schools telling them to do it. They had the news media telling them to do it. Peace, I see you, K of God. They had the news media telling them to do it. They had a whole bunch of people telling them to do dumb shit, and they've been programmed to do that shit. And the shit that I find the most disturbing is that a lot of you people claim that you're Christians, or you believe in God, or you believe in Allah, or Jehovah, or whatever belief you believe in. And I see people basically laughing at the dead, when a lot of you should be praying for these people's souls, praying for their forgiveness. There was a kid that was shot, 13 years of age. Now, the police officer was in his rights because the kid had a gun. The officer felt threatened. Law gives the officer the right to shoot. But the thing that's fucked up the most is he was 13. He was a little boy. At the age of 12, I carried guns. I used to fight dogs. I didn't listen to my mother. I never stayed in the house. I had grown men that had me doing things outside that I never had no business doing in the first place. And they trained me to do it. They trained me to shoot at people. My mother wasn't the best mother at the time, but she learned from her mistakes. She found God. She changed her position. She started to become a better mother. I changed my whole life around. That little 13-year-old boy will never ever grow up, and have the opportunity to be a Tony X. He'll never grow up and have the opportunity to right his wrongs, to learn from his mistakes, because he is dead. And a lot of you people condemning a little boy with the name of Little Homicide, whatever the hell he wants to call himself. But I don't see enough people talking about the parents, and I don't see enough people blaming the media for all of this shit that's happening in the first place. They're responsible for everything that we're seeing right now, and I don't see nobody having a problem with them. I don't see nobody condemning the mainstream media for starting this shit in the first place. I see people condemning a 13-year-old boy who is dead. You can't hate the left so much that you start to become it. If you don't see the high road, that's because you're on the same playing field as the people on the left that you supposedly say you hate so much. It's impossible for you to sit here and continue to call yourself good Christians and you mock people who are dead. They are literally canceled. When you go into someone's background in order to trivialize their death, in order to make what happened to them accepted, that's cancel culture. That's like when someone goes and finds a tweet 10 years ago and they decide now that you shouldn't have the job you had because 10 years ago you made a tweet that they didn't like. So when we go back into someone's past 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, in order to trivialize something that has happened to them, we're literally using cancel culture. But instead of what the left is doing and getting people fired, we're canceling people who won't ever have the right to defend themselves nor change who or what they were doing, their activities, and who they are. A lot of you need to get on your hands and knees, and a lot of you need to pray, because those are kids that are outside doing this. Those are kids that are destroying the communities, that are burning buildings down. Those aren't adults. Adults go to work every day, majority of them, in the first place. Others are just too tired to run around and start destroying shit with little to no thought to it. So these are kids that are in these communities that are destroying their own communities, and no one is talking about the news media that is responsible for this. The big tech companies is censoring your free speech. The politicians is letting them censor your free speech because the politicians can't legally censor your free speech. So they allow companies to censor your free speech, which is supposed to have these organizations or these platforms as an open forum, not as a way to stifle your free speech. If they don't want children to see the things that we see, then children shouldn't be allowed on these platforms, that they make it readily available to them. If they want to have an age restriction on these platforms, they could actually do that, but they don't. This is their excuse. Their excuse to break the law, break the rules, and make sure that people like you and me don't have the opportunity to speak to one another so we can speak the truth. You can't be so effed up that you start becoming the very thing that you hate. A lot of you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. A lot of you, a great deal of you. Whether you want to admit it or not, there are very good cops out there, but there are very bad cops that make it very, very difficult for good cops to go into these areas, work, do their jobs, and go home safe. And up until a point, we hold bad cops responsible, and we stop letting these police officers investigate themselves. Yeah, and let bad cops continue to rack up tickets and get away with it. Until these things stop, communities all around this country will continue to lose faith in good cops. We have to stop making excuses for the things that we see that's going on. Again, that cop was well in his legal right to shoot that boy. He seen the gun in his hands. He had every right to shoot that little boy. He did. He had every right to shoot him. Every right. Everything happened so fast. But that still doesn't mean that you mock a little boy who's dead. Because he's gone. He'll never have the opportunity to change his life. He'll never have a story like I have, like a lot of you have, because a lot of you were young and did a lot of things you could have been in trouble for, a lot of things you could have lost your life for, and you're still here because you had the opportunity to change it. You can't run around here calling yourself God-fearing, and you just skip prayer day. You skip praying for people who can no longer pray for themselves. You skip the days of forgiving people who can no longer ask for forgiveness. You can't call yourself God-fearing if you can continue to sit here and make arguments on why someone should be dead when we're supposed to be fighting for everybody to be able to live. I'm going to let you guys go.